Touch delay and welcome to class 11 biology. Today I'm going to discuss a new chapter, that is chapter 9, biomolecules. So in this video we are going to discuss the following topics: analysis of chemical components in living tissue, micromolecules such as amino acid, lipids, nitrogenous base, nucleoside and nucleotides. Okay, so we all know that Earth contains a diversity of living organisms. And this living organism contains, or you can say, they compose of various chemical components in them. So does all living organism possess the same chemical component? So if you have to find out, you have to perform an elemental analysis of elements in the living tissues. So the elemental analysis of the living tissue, they found that the elements such as hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, etc. are present in living body. Okay, so here the percentage weight is also shown here. Now, if the same elemental analysis is done on the sample of Earth crust, we can also find the same components or same elements as found in living organisms. So now what is the difference? Yes, the difference is that the relative abundance of the carbon and hydrogen with respect to other elements in the living tissue is much more than that of in the Earth crust sample, that is in the non-living things. So that is different. In living organism, you can find higher percentage of carbon and higher percentage of hydrogen. Okay, so now if we ask, how can we analyze, how can we find out what are the chemical composition of a living organism? Or you can say, how can we find out the organic component in a living organism or inorganic component in a living organism? What are the steps? Okay, so here we'll discuss, that is analysis of chemical composition in living tissue. The first one is analysis of organic compound. So for that, we're going to take any living tissue, it can be leaf or it can be animal tissues like liver, grind them in trichloroacetic acid using mortar and pestles. So mortar and pestle, this equipment here is called as mortar and this is pestle, so it is used to grind the living tissues. Here the acid is trichloroacetic acid. So when you grind them, we will get a thick slurry, and this thick slurry is strained through cheesecloth or cotton. So when you strain them, you get two fractions, two parts, that is the one which is filtered and the one which remained here as a retentate. The one which is filtered is called as filtrate and the other remaining is called as retentate. Okay, and the filtrates are the acid soluble pools and retentates are the acid insoluble fractions. Okay, so scientists, what they did is they have analyzed this acid soluble portion, the component in the acid soluble pool, and they found that there are a number of organic compounds present in this acid soluble pool. Okay, and now how do we analyze the chemical component? How do we know what chemical is present? For that, you have to first isolate the particular compound and then purify them, and then you can get the idea of what is the molecular formula of the compound and what is the probable structure of the compound. So in this way, we can analyze the organic compound present in living tissue or living cells or in living organisms. Okay, now this acid soluble pool contains, of course, organic compound. Other than that, inorganic compounds such as sulfate, phosphate are also seen in this. Now next is, how do we find or analyze the inorganic component present in living? So let us see here. The steps are, first of all, you have to weigh dry we have to take a tissue, small amount of living tissue. We have to weigh it, and this is called as wet weight because it contains water. Next, what you have to do is you have to dry them. After drying again, you can weigh them, and the weight you get is that of a dry weight because the water is all dried up, or you can say evaporated. Next, the tissue are fully burnt. The tissue are fully burnt so that the carbon content in this tissue, okay, are released out in the form of carbon dioxide, and also the water is released or is lost in the form of water vapor. Now what is remaining? The remaining is the ash, and this ash contain organic elements such as calcium, magnesium, etc. So let us look at some of the inorganic elements and compound present in living tissues. So living tissue, let's say. So some of the inorganic components are sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium, and then it contains water as a compound. Other compounds are sodium chloride, calcium carbonate, phosphate, and sulfate. So these are some of the inorganic constituent of living tissue. Okay, so living tissue contain organic component as well as inorganic component. Okay, now in the body, all the carbon compound that we get from the living tissue are called as biomolecules. So some of the examples are amino acids, polysaccharides, protein, DNA, RNA, and lipids. Now these biomolecules are classified based on certain criteria. Okay, so the first one is it is based on the nature. Okay, nature of their solubility in the acid, whether they are soluble in acid or insoluble in acids. So acid solubles and acid insolubles. Another criteria is the molecular weight, whether they have a high molecular weight or low molecular weight. So based on that, again, we have micromolecules and macromolecules. So let us look at some of differences between micromolecules and macromolecules here. So micromolecules are formed as acid soluble pools. So these are acid solubles. So earlier when we discussed about this one analysis of organic compound, what we discuss is the steps are, if we can recall, take a tissue, grind them in trichloroacetic acid using mortar and pestle, we get a thick slurry, and this thick slurry is strained through the cheesecloth. When you strain them, you get two portions. Okay, the filtrate and the retentate. The filtrates are the acid solubles. Okay, and this acid soluble pool contains mainly that of micromolecules. So these micromolecules are acid soluble, and the retentates are the acid insolubles, and they contain macromolecules. So these macromolecules are acid insoluble. And regarding their molecular weight, the molecular weight of the macromolecules range from 18 to 800 Dalton, whereas in a macromolecule, it is 10,000 Dalton and above. So the molecular weight is much higher than in the macromolecule than that of a micromolecule. So micromolecule have a simpler structure, whereas macromolecule has a complex structure. So let us look at some examples. The examples under micromolecules are amino acids, sugar, nucleic acid, nucleotide, and lipids. In macromolecule, we have three important components. Those are protein, polysaccharides, and nucleic acid. That is, nucleic acid means DNA and RNA. Now, if you look into the slide, you can see that the lipid is shown in the red color. So it has some exception. So here what we said is macromolecules are acid soluble, but lipid is exception. Okay, so these lipids are usually found. They are usually found during the let's say filtration. Okay, these lipids are usually found along with the macromolecules, along with the macromolecule fractions. Lipids are found along with the macromolecule fractions. That is, they are found along with the starch, DNA, RNA, and proteins. Now, why? Why is it so? Even though technically these lipids are micromolecules, but they are found along with the macromolecules in a acid-insoluble fraction. Why is it so? Okay, so let us see. These lipids, they are an important component of plasma membrane and other membranes. So, when we grind the tissue, we disturb the cells. When we disturb the cells, of course, the plasma membrane and the cell membrane, they get broken down into pieces, and these pieces of this membrane here, this membrane, when you break them down during grinding, what happens is they form vesicles. Okay, and these vesicles are not soluble in water. And these membrane fragments in the form of vesicle get separated along with the acid insoluble pool. Okay, so when you break down the tissue, the cell membrane, which is composed mainly of the lipids, they become the cell membrane, when they are disrupted, when they are broken down, they form a vesicles, and vesicles are acid insoluble, water insoluble, acid insoluble. That is why these membrane fragments, okay, are separated along with the acid insoluble pool. Okay, now next, let us talk about three of the micromolecules. The first one is amino acid. Amino acid is a building block for protein synthesis. It's a monomer of protein synthesis. So there are a total of 20 amino acids which is required for protein synthesis. There are other amino acids too, okay, which again are not required for protein synthesis. So we are focused only on the 20 amino acids. So these amino acids, when you look at its structure, these are the substituted methane. So we know that methane CH4 here. So the hydrogen is substituted by other chemical components such as here. So this carbon on this is attached one H, and then one amino group NH2 here, R group, and carboxyl group COOH. So here is a substituted methane. So methane has CH4, H1 here, one here, one here, one here. But here instead of this one H, we have amino group. Here we have R group, and then we have a carboxyl group. Okay, so all these are bonded with the same carbon here. So this is a alpha amino acid. Okay, now depending upon the chemical component here, chemical structure of the R, we have different types of amino acid. So this R can be anything. So let us look at three such examples. So if the R is substituted by H, we get amino acid called as glycine. And if R is substituted by methyl group, then what we get is we get alanine. Likewise, if it is substituted by CH2OH, we get serine. So depending upon the chemical nature of the R or the chemical structure of the R, we get different amino acid. Okay, now this amino acid, okay, as discussed, there are 20 amino acids which are responsible, or you can say which take part in the protein synthesis. So let us have a look at these 20 amino acids. So aspartic acid, glutamic acid, lysine, arginine, histidine, serine, threonine, glutamine, asparagine, tyrosine, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine, methionine, phenylalanine, tryptophan, glycine, cysteine, and proline. Okay, so these are the 20 different amino acids involved in protein synthesis. Now, talking about its classification, the amino acids are classified based on the number of, let's say, amino group and the number of carboxyl group. That is, okay, so this classification can be on the basis of the number of functional groups, that is amino group, or carboxyl group. So depending upon that, we have acid, basic, and neutral amino acid. So acidic amino acids are those amino acids which have higher percentage or higher amount of carboxyl group, and basic has higher content of amino group, and neutral have same number of amino group and carboxyl group. Okay, so let us just have a look here. Aspartic acid. Aspartic acid, you can see here we have one carboxyl group, we have another carboxyl group here. So a total of 2 carboxyl group and only 1 amino group here. So the net charge, of course, will be negatively charged. So the chemical nature, it becomes acidic aspartic acid. So this is an acidic amino acid. Likewise here, arginine. When you look at this arginine, you can see that we have one carboxyl group here, and then there is one amino group here, 2 and 3. So a total of 3 amino group and only a single carboxyl group. So the overall charge will be positively charged, which becomes a basic amino acid. Likewise, lysine also here. 1, 2 amino group, 1 carboxyl group. So this is a basic amino acid. Now we'll have a look at here. In this case, there is 1 amino group, NH2 here. There is 1 carboxyl group, COO here. Okay, so the number of amino group and the amino and the carboxyl group both are same. Okay, so the charge is neutral. So this is a neutral amino acid. Now another way in which amino acid can be classified is based on whether these amino acids are synthesized in the body or not. Okay, so we have essential amino acid and non-essential amino acid, and the third category, that is conditionally non-essential amino acid. Okay, so essential amino acids are those amino acids which is essential. Okay, which is essential in our body because our body is not able to synthesize. This essential amino acid has to be supplied through diet. So to get these essential amino acids such as histidine, isoleucine, leucine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, valine, and lysine, what we have to do is we have to take a food rich in these amino acids. Okay, we have to take a protein-rich food again, as well as it should also contain these amino acids. Now there are other amino acids which is synthesized by our body during metabolism. Okay, so that means we don't have to supply it from outside, and these are the non-essential amino acids. Okay, so non-essential amino acids are those amino acids which are synthesized by our own body. It need not be supplied through the external diet. Okay, so these are non-essential amino acids. Now these are also essential amino acids, but these are required during particular time in a life of an individual. Okay, maybe during pregnancy you need more, or during let us say lactation and so on. Okay, so these are again of course essential, but only during particular period in a life. Now next is talking about the chemical nature of this amino acid. This amino acid in a solution, they change, they ionize. Okay, so in acid solution, okay, so with the change in the pH, they change their structure. In acid solution, you find the structure here like this, having a negatively charged here, and in basic solution, you have like this, okay, positive charge. Now, the change in the structure you can see here is you have a positive charge here, you have a negative charge here, and in this structure, there is both positive charge and negative charge. Such a structure here is called as Zeta ionic form. Zeta ionic form of a amino acid. Now next is lipids. Lipids are important in our body. It's one of the important nutrient also in the body, because these are the one which are a major component in many structure of the body, and they also are a source of storage food, or you can say energy. Let us look at some of the, or let's look at the classification, broad classification of lipids. Lipids are classified broadly into simple lipids, compound or conjugated lipids, and derived lipids. So simple lipids are nothing but these are the lipids, or you can say these are a substance made up of fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, so the simple lipids are composed of fatty acid and glycerols. So some examples are fats and wax, compound or conjugated lipids are again a lipid plus other non-lipid components such as phosphate, such as protein. Okay, so other component which binds with the lipid, it forms a compound lipid or conjugated lipid. And the last one is derived lipid. So these are nothing but these are derived or these are formed by the hydrolysis of simple and compound lipids. Usually they have a hydrocarbon rings. Now let us look at each one of them. First one is simple lipid, and this simple lipid it can be fatty acid only, or it can be glycerol only, or simple acid, fatty acid esterified with glycerol. So you can have the simple lipid of 3 types. Okay, first we'll just look at simple fatty acid. So fatty acid are nothing but these are the carboxyl group attached to R group. This R group can be methyl, ethyl, and so on. So the number of carbon can range from 1 carbon to 19 carbon. One such example is palmitic acid. Palmitic acid has 16 carbon. Let us see here. See 14, 15, and 16. Okay, so 16 carbon compound. Here you can see that this COOH is attached to the R group here. Okay, fatty acid. And another one is arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid has 20 carbon here. Next is fatty acid again can be classified into saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. Saturated fatty acids have a single bond between carbon. Okay, so the bond between carbon to carbon is single bond, whereas in unsaturated fatty acid there is double bond or triple bond between carbon. And in saturated fatty acid they remain solid at room temperature, whereas in unsaturated fatty acid they are liquid at room temperature. Now next type of lipid is lipid can be in a simple glycerol form, that is trihydroxypropane. Okay, so propanol here, trihydroxypropane. Okay, there are 3 carbon compound here and then OH. And lipid can be formed in the form of fatty acid esterified with glycerol. Okay, so here this is fatty acid here, R1 fatty acid here, and this is glycerol. Here you find 1 fatty acid. In this example you can find again 2 fatty acid, 1 here and another here. Okay, here you find 3 fatty acids. So accordingly they are named monoglyceride, diglyceride, and triglyceride. Okay, so monoglyceride have 1 fatty acid esterified with glycerol. Diglyceride has 2 fatty acid compound, esterified with 1 glycerol. Triglyceride has 3 fatty acid esterified with the glycerol. Now next is conjugated lipid. So as discussed here earlier, conjugated lipid has a lipid and other, that is prosthetic group. Okay, so other it can be phosphate or lipid or glucose. So some example here are phospholipid, glycolipid, and lipoprotein. So in this case, phospholipid, there is a phosphate linked with the lipid, glucose linked with the lipid and glycolipid, and then protein linked with the lipid, that is lipolipid. Okay, so here you can see in the phospholipid the example is lecithin here. So we have a phosphate group here, phosphate group attached to this lipid, attached to the lipid. Now derived lipids are those substances which are derived from hydrolysis of simple and compound lipid. Okay, so these usually will have some ring structure, and also they'll have a side chain. Okay, so here you can see 4 ring with a side chain here, tail. That is an example here is cholesterol here, and this is a steroid skeleton, and this is a cholesterol derived lipid. Now the next type of micromolecule is nitrogen base, nucleoside, and nucleotide. Nitrogen base, these are nothing but these are the heterocyclic compound, okay, which is rich in nitrogen. So this heterocyclic compound, it can be one cyclic or it can be two cyclic. So based on that, we have two groups, that is pyrimidine and purine. Pyrimidine are the nitrogen base containing one cycle here, one cyclic compound here, and in the case of purine, there are two cyclic compound here. And as discussed, okay, it is nitrogen base, so it has a rich nitrogen here. It is nitrogen rich. There are lots of nitrogen here in the ring structure. Now, pyrimidine are of three types, that is cytosine, thymine, and uracil. Purine are of two types, adenine and guanine. And this cytosine, adenine, and guanine are found in RNA and DNA both, whereas thymine is present only in DNA and uracil is present only in RNA. This nitrogen base bonds with or form a bond with the pentose sugar. When it forms a bond with the sugar, then it forms nucleoside. Okay, so that sugar here is a pentose sugar. Pentose sugar means sugar made up of 5 carbon compound. Okay, so carbon number 1, carbon number 2, carbon number 3, 4, and 5. So there are 5 carbon here. Ring structure you can see, this is a pentose sugar. Pentose sugar. When this pentose sugar is linked with that of a nitrogen base, then we get nucleoside. So here in this example, you find that this pentose sugar, okay, linked with cytosine here, nitrogenous base cytosine here will form a cytidine. Likewise, this sugar linked with uracil will form uridine. Sugar linked with adenine will form adenosine. Sugar linked with guanine will form guanosine. And there is one more. Sugar linked with thymine will form thymidine. Okay, so nitrogenous base, when it is linked with sugar, ribose sugar or deoxyribose sugar, the sugar can be ribose or deoxyribose. So this sugar, when they are linked with the nitrogen base, what we get is we get a nucleoside. Okay, now here let us just have a look at the nitrogen base here. Sugar here, ribose sugar here. In this ribose sugar, this is a ribose sugar. Now, if one of the oxygen is removed from the second, from this ring structure, that is from the second position, second carbon, if you remove one oxygen, then we get is deoxyribose. One oxygen is removed, deoxyribose. Okay, but here the picture are all of that of a ribose sugar, and the ribose sugar is present in RNA, whereas deoxyribose sugar is present in DNA. Okay, so these are the important components of nucleic acid, that is DNA and RNA. Okay, now the third one is nucleotide. So let us just see here. Sugar and nitrogenous base will give us nucleoside. We have learned till here. Now, when these nucleosides form a bond with phosphate group, that phosphate group and the nucleoside, when they are linked by phosphodiester bond, we get is nucleotide. So these nucleotides are adenylic acid, thymidyllic acid, guanylylic acid, uridylic acid, and cytidyllic acid. So these are the 5 different, nucleotide. And out of this again 5, we have 4 in DNA and 4 in RNA. Okay, so let us just look at the structure here. This is a sugar here. The earlier sugar is that of ribose, and the sugar shown here is deoxyribose here. At the second position, there is only hydrogen, there is no oxygen here. So this is a deoxyribose sugar, and this deoxyribose sugar at position number 1 linked with nitrogenous base will form a nucleoside. Nucleoside here. Nucleoside. So the nitrogen base here is A, that is adenine. So this adenine linked with sugar will give us adenosine. And this adenosine, when it is linked with phosphate group, we get is adenylic acid, that is nucleotide. So basically we can say that nucleotide is composed of 3 components, that is phosphate group, sugar, and nitrogenous base. So let us look at one more example here. Okay, as discussed here earlier, adenine, sugar, and phosphate group give us nucleotide, and the name of the nucleotide here is adenylic acid. Likewise, uracil, sugar, and phosphate group will give us uridylic acid. Okay, so this nucleotide contains 3 important components. These are nitrogenous base, sugar, and phosphate group. Okay, so these nucleotides are the monomers for nucleic acid. So nucleic acid, you know, these are RNA and DNA, which is very important for all the living organisms because they carry the genetic information. Okay, so the repeating unit of this nucleotide will form nucleic acid, and the nucleic acid is macromolecule. So we'll stop here. So in the next video, we will discuss, we learn about the biomacromolecules. Okay, till now what we discuss is, we discuss about how the chemical composition of a living tissue is analyzed. Okay, that is analysis of organic compound as well as inorganic compound or inorganic elements and inorganic compounds. And then we discussed briefly about what is biomolecule and the classification of biomolecules into micromolecules and macromolecules. And then we took 3 examples of micromolecules, that is amino acids, lipids, and then this nitrogen containing heterocyclics. Okay, so this we have discussed already. Now in the next class we shall discuss on macromolecules. Those are polysaccharides, proteins, and nucleic acid, that is DNA and RNA. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you.